There is a boardroom in Edinburgh this week that matters more to the future of Test cricket than anything happening on a cricket field. No cameras, no crowd, no boundary count ticking over on a big screen, just suits, spreadsheets and a fight over who gets to belong to the most exclusive club in world sport. And 200 miles south on a sun-baked square at Trent Bridge, a 21-year-old from Warwickshire is making a mockery of the idea that Test cricket's problems have anything to do with a lack of talent. Because right now, English cricket has more talent than it knows what to do with. The question the men in Edinburgh are wrestling with isn't about talent at all. It's about money, access, and whether the global game is willing to share the one thing it has always hoarded like a dragon sitting on gold, a seat at the top table. Let's start in Scotland, because this is the story nobody's shouting about, and it should be. The International Cricket Council is holding its annual general meeting, and buried in the agenda, wrapped in the dry, bureaucratic language that governing bodies love to hide behind, is a proposal that could reshape the World Test Championship as we know it. 9 teams currently fight it out in the WTC cycle. 9 in a sport that claims over 100 member nations. 9 teams get to say they play real cricket, the format the purists still call the truest test of a player's character, while everyone else watches from the sidelines, hoping, waiting, wondering if the door will ever open for them. Now, finally, there's a plan on the table to widen that door. Afghanistan, Ireland, Zimbabwe, 12 teams instead of 9. On paper, it sounds like progress. It sounds like the sport growing up. A scratch beneath the surface, and this is where the drama really lives. Because for one of those 3 nations, this isn't a simple yes. Enter Sarah Keane, the woman now steering Cricket Ireland through what might be the most consequential few months of her tenure. Keane only took charge in March, stepping into shoes that had been worn for 19 years by Warren Dutram, a man who built modern Irish cricket brick by brick, who fought for Ireland's full member status, who watched his side beat England at a World Cup and dared to dream bigger. 19 years is a long time to hold a job like that. It takes a particular kind of person to walk away from it, and it takes an even more particular kind of person to walk into it. Keane isn't a lifelong cricket administrator either. And that's part of what makes her perspective so interesting. She ran Swim Ireland. She was the first woman ever to serve as president of the Olympic Federation of Ireland. This is someone who has spent her career fighting for underfunded, under-resourced sports to get a fair hearing on the biggest stages in the world. And now she's walked straight into cricket's oldest, thorniest inequality problem, the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Because here's the thing about being offered a seat at the WTC table. It sounds like an honour. It sounds like validation. But for Ireland, it might be a poisoned chalice, and Keane isn't shy about saying so. It's likely that there's going to be a proposal to include us in the WTC, she told BBC Sport. And you can almost hear the caution in every word of that sentence. This is not a woman punching the air. This is a woman doing the maths in her head in real time. Because Test cricket, the format everyone claims to revere, the format that gets the misty-eyed tributes and the think pieces about tradition and soul, is also brutally the most expensive format cricket has ever invented. 5 days of hosting costs, 5 days of ground staff, broadcast infrastructure, player welfare, accommodation, insurance, 5 days that might not even fill a stadium if the opposition isn't glamorous enough to sell tickets. For India, for England, for Australia, this is loose change. For Ireland, a nation with a fraction of the playing population and a fraction of the broadcast revenue of the Giants, this is existential. And here's the detail that should stop you in your tracks. Ireland don't even have a functioning first-class competition right now. Their interprovincial tournament, the domestic bedrock that's supposed to produce players ready for the rigours of red ball cricket, hasn't been played since 2019. Think about that. 5 years, maybe 6, by the time any WTC inclusion actually kicks in, of players trying to prepare for Test cricket without the domestic pathway that every single other Test nation takes for granted. Imagine England trying to compete in the WTC without the county championship. Imagine Australia without the Sheffield Shield. It would be unthinkable. But that is essentially the position Ireland could find themselves parachuted into. Full membership of an elite competition without any of the infrastructure beneath it that makes elite competition sustainable. Keane knows this. She's not against the idea. In fact, she's clear that on a cricketing level, the appeal is real. I know from a performance side that red ball cricket is seen also as very good from the development perspective of players, she said. And she's right. It is. Longer formats build technique, patience, the mental scaffolding that white ball cricket, for all its explosive brilliance, simply doesn't demand in the same way. We'd be excited by the possibility of us being part of the WTC, she added. This isn't a rejection. This is a warning shot, wrapped in diplomatic language, aimed squarely at the IC's biggest boards. Because Keane's real message, if you strip away the careful phrasing, is this: don't hand us a trophy we can't afford to keep. And that's where this story becomes something bigger than Ireland. This is about the entire architecture of global cricket and whether the men who run it are capable of seeing past their own back gardens. Keane put it about as plainly as an administrator can without burning bridges. A big part now over the next couple of months is where do we fit in that wider IC vision and that wider global vision for cricket in the next, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, she said. And then the line that should be ringing in every kicky boardroom in Edinburgh this week, I do think there's an element of, are some of the bigger nations understanding the challenges of the smaller nations? Read that again. That is a full member nation, one of the 12 most powerful voting blocks in world cricket, effectively asking whether the giants of the sport are paying attention at all. It's a quiet question. It's also one of the most damning things a cricket administrator has said publicly in years. Because let's be honest about how global cricket actually works. The bulk of the sport's revenue, the broadcast deals, the sponsorship, the eyeballs flows overwhelmingly from a handful of nations. India alone generates a staggering share of the game's global income. England and Australia aren't far behind. And that financial gravity shapes everything, from fixture scheduling to which formats get prioritised, to which nations get development funding, and which get left to figure it out themselves. Cricket loves to talk about being a global game. It loves the marketing images of children playing in the streets of Kabul or Kigali or Dublin. But when it comes to actually redistributing power and resources to match that global ambition, the sport has always moved at a glacial pace. Keane's comments this week are a reminder that growth and inclusion mean very different things depending on which side of the boardroom table you're sitting on. So what happens next? Nobody knows yet, and that's precisely why this story deserves your attention. If the ICIT pushes ahead and Ireland, Afghanistan and Zimbabwe are added to the WTC without a serious conversation about funding support, without addressing the fact that a nation like Ireland doesn't even have first-class cricket running domestically, then this so-called expansion risks becoming a trap dressed up as a triumph. 3 new teams, on paper, playing in the same competition as India and England and Australia, but structurally unable to compete on anything close to a level footing. That's not growth, that's window dressing. But if Keane's warnings are heeded, if the wider IC vision she's talking about actually reckons with the specific circumstances facing nations like hers, then this could be the moment Test cricket finally starts looking like the truly global sport it claims to be. The next few months, as she says herself, will tell us everything. Now let's cross back over the Irish Sea. Because while the suits debate cricket's future in conference rooms, England's present is looking about as good as it's looked in years. Trent Bridge, Tuesday, the 3rd T20 against India, and England have named an unchanged side. Read that phrase again, because in international cricket, an unchanged side is rarely just an administrative footnote. It's a statement. It means the last performance was good enough that the selectors didn't feel the need to touch a single thing. It means momentum. It means a team that knows exactly who it is right now. And momentum is precisely what England have. They lead this 5-match series 1-0. though even that scoreline undersells the chaos that's already unfolded. The opening match at Chester Le Strait never got going at all, swallowed whole by the weather before a ball could settle the contest, an abandonment that left both camps waiting an extra match to properly take each other's measure. Then Old Trafford happened, and if you blinked, you missed one of the most thrilling nights of white ball cricket England have produced in a long while. A 4-wicket win, chasing, under pressure, against an Indian side that never makes anything easy. And at the heart of it, doing what he has quietly been doing all year, was Jacob Bethell. Let's talk about Bethell for a second, because this is a player England fans need to be paying very close attention to. 76 runs, not out, off just 46 balls. The innings that dragged England over the line and kept this series alive as a genuine contest rather than a one-sided procession. This wasn't a flashy, streaky knock either. This was control. This was a young player reading a chase, understanding the equation ball by ball, and delivering exactly what was needed at exactly the moment it mattered most. 21 years old and already looking like a batter with the temperament to bat anywhere in the order against anyone in any format. There's a reason his name keeps surfacing in conversations about where England go next, not just in T20 cricket, but potentially higher up the order in the 50-over game too. Players who can chase under pressure without their pulse rate changing are rare. England may well have found one growing right under their noses. And then there's the captaincy story running quietly underneath all of this, because Harry Brook leading this T20 side is itself a small piece of drama worth pulling apart. Brook has the white ball reins here at Trent Bridge, trusted to steer England through this series. And yet he's been overlooked for the Test captaincy against New Zealand. Think about the layers in that decision. England clearly rate Brook enormously as a leader in the shorter formats, comfortable handing him the keys to a 5-match series against a major rival. But when it comes to the 5-day game, the format that still, for all the T20 razzmatazz, carries the heaviest weight of expectation and history, the selectors have looked elsewhere. It's not a snub exactly, but it is a signal. It tells you England are thinking carefully, perhaps more carefully than they're letting on publicly, about who their long-term leaders should be across different formats. Brook is white ball captaincy material right now, full stop. And how he performs across this series against India will only sharpen the conversation about whether that trust eventually extends further. Meanwhile, spare a thought for the other side of this contest, because Manchester gave us a genuine slice of cricket history too. Vaibhav Suryavanshi walked out to open the batting for India, and in doing so became the youngest man ever to represent his country on a cricket field. Let that sink in for a moment. A teenager thrust into one of the most scrutinised jerseys in world sport, opening the innings against an England attack that has spent the last few years terrorising bowling lineups of its own. The numbers from his debut were modest, 14 runs from 10 balls, the kind of scoreline that will barely register in a highlights package. But the number that matters isn't 14, it's his age. Indian cricket has produced prodigies before, but handing a teenager the opening slot in international cricket is as much a statement of intent as it is a selection. It says India are already building for a future well beyond this series, well beyond this year, perhaps well beyond this decade, whether Suryavanshi becomes the generational talent his early hype suggests, or whether this ends up being a footnote in a longer, more gradual development, we simply don't know yet. But you can bet every scout, every rival board, and every fan of the game will be watching his next innings far more closely than his first. So here we are. 2 storylines, worlds apart in tone, but both in their own way. About the same fundamental question: who gets to be part of cricket's future, and on what terms? In Edinburgh, administrators are quietly deciding whether smaller nations get genuine investment or just a name on an expanded fixture list. At Trent Bridge, a 21-year-old is answering that question in the most direct way possible, with bat in hand. Proving that talent doesn't wait for governance structures to catch up. England go into this third T20 full of confidence, unchanged in form, with Bethel looking like a genuine long-term fixture and Brook quietly building his leadership credentials one series at a time. India, for their part, are blooding the future in real time, even if it comes with growing pains along the way. What happens from here matters far beyond one T20 series or one IC agenda item. If England can close this series out with the same ruthlessness they showed at Old Trafford, this becomes a summer remembered for genuine emerging stars rather than just results. And if the IC actually listens to voices like Sarah Keene's this week, rather than simply expanding the WTC for the sake of a bigger logo on a broadcast graphic, then cricket might just take a real step toward becoming the truly global sport it has always claimed to be. Two very different rooms, two very different kinds of pressure, but both will shape what this sport looks like for the next decade. So here's what we want to know from you. Should the IC be pouring serious funding into nations like Ireland before handing them a WTC spot? Or is inclusion itself the priority? Funding be damned. And on the England front, is Jacob Bethel now undroppable in white ball cricket? And could Harry Brook's white ball captaincy eventually stretch into the Test arena too? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one of them and we want the argument going. If this breakdown helped you see both of these stories in a new light, smash that like button. It genuinely helps us keep bringing you this level of analysis. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to Boundary Line UK, because between the boardroom politics and the boundary count, English cricket never runs short of drama, and we'll be here to break down every single twist of it.